Welcome to Mission Undercover. Joining me today is best-selling author and jobs expert Josef Stetter. He has helped more than 11,000 people land their dream job. We're going to discuss how you can join them and land your dream job as well, how job seekers can navigate the AI revolution, and what skills set people apart, and so much more. So could you introduce yourself? What inspired you to become a recruiter? And what Guinness World Record did you attempt?
Okay, so I'll start with the fact that I did not know what I want to do when I grow up. So I started with my career in terms of pleasing people, pleasing my parents, and getting a good job in quotations. So I've switched careers 9 times and 18 jobs, and along the process, kind of figured out what most people are doing wrong and why. And in terms of the Guinness World Record, I participated in the most authors signing the exact same book at the exact same time Guinness World Record, which was about 150 authors at the same time kind of signing a book. And in terms of recruiting, I worked for a recruiting agency where in my first year, I generated $760,000 in revenue. And to reward me at Christmas with the Christmas bonus, the owner gave me cheese and crackers. And when I looked at her and said, "What is this?" She said, "Well, the cheese is from a very high-end, grocery store where they massage the cow for a month." And I looked at her and go, "Do I look like I'm 65 years old that I need cheese from a store?" Sadly, the crackers were from a dollar store. And when I kind of realized this, that my work wasn't being appreciated, I was like, you know what? I I did this by myself. I brought in the clients. I built the relationships. Uh, my supervisor, who'd been there for 11 years, did $140,000 that year in terms of billing. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to open my own firm. And I've been a generalist in recruiting for nearly 20 years, working with giants like Tata Consulting Services, Deloitte& Touche, Apotex Pharmaceuticals, and several other small to global companies.
Yeah, that just goes to show that there's no linear path to success, and there's a lot of ways that you can become successful. So tell
Correct.
me more about your Land a Dream Job program. How does it help people to get into a good job, and where can people access it?
So there is kind of that's a multi-layered question that you asked me there, and thank you for that question. So the first thing that you need to understand is my system focuses on the biggest mistakes most people make. So for example, on their resume, most people write, "I know how to do this. I have experience with this." Nobody cares. So and I like to give these two examples. If you are a receptionist and you're applying for a job and you say, "I know how to answer the phone," I hope the employer looks at you in shock, goes, "Really? A receptionist that knows how to answer the phone? We did not know that." Because unless you live in an igloo, a cave, or practice the faith of Mennonite, my 3-year-old son can press the green button and go, "Hello," and it's very cute. However, if you go to a job and say, "I know how to answer 60 calls a day with 12 different lines," I can measure 60 calls a day with 12 different lines. I cannot measure, "I know how to answer the phone." Right? So if I use an example from my own career, I can say to you, Zaidan, that I am an excellent salesperson. I know how to do B2B, B2C, account management, relationship building, lead generation. I've worked in door to door sales. I've done car sales. I've done retail sales. I've worked in private education. I've worked in recruitment. I know how to do sales. Now, all the words I just said are important for the algorithm of Indeed and LinkedIn and all of the kind of online job tools, right? And that's part of how they score you. But just because I've had a lot of sales jobs does not mean I'm actually good in sales until I give you actual examples. So I worked for a private college that before I came in generated $530,000 in sales for the entire year. In 1 month, I generated $860,000. Now, usually the reaction is wow, and then how. And as long as I can explain the how, I can show you that I'm an excellent salesperson. The problem with most people when they go to an interview is they kind of give generics like, yes, I know how to, let's say, code in Python, or I know how to do accounting. Again, how good are you? What is it that made you different, better, or other? Can you do it faster? Can you do it more efficiently? Can you kind of find automations that makes things better? And if you cannot explain that, you will have a hard time finding the job. And so part of that program, understand, is that instead of saying to you, "Oh, you know what, you shouldn't smoke before," like, yes, I do mention some what should be common sense, which is no longer common sense. But It's more on here's why if you go to interview and you're not getting to the second, third round or the offer, you're making these mistakes in the interview. So, for example, one of the most common questions is, do you know this, let's say, technical software? And pretty much everybody on earth says, no, but I'm a really quick learner. I've never met anyone that goes, no, and it will take me 5 years to figure out how to use this software. Right? So the moment that you say no, your interview is done. Now, instead of saying no, say, here's a similar software I used. Here's the project I did. Here's the results I produced. And because of that, I'm confident I can use this software as well. Now, you did not say no, you actually gave proof that you know what you're doing. And it's a very small but very big difference in your success in landing a job.
So, from what you say, it seems like versatility and flexibility are really important when it comes to looking for a job. So, what other traits would you say are important for job seekers to make themselves stand out against competition?
So again, because of the AI revolution, which you asked me quickly, you have to understand that a lot of candidates get eliminated by default by the AI because their resume doesn't score high enough, or they haven't set up their resume algorithmically correct. Now, we've become a very passive and lazy society where we will send out thousands of resumes on Indeed. Understand that one job posting on Indeed gets up to 5,000 resumes, and if you're talking about remote job, triple to quintuple that, meaning 15 to 25,000 applications for a remote job. Okay, so we need to stop being kind of passive in, okay, I've applied, I'll wait for a response. You need to be more proactive. So a quick example, I had a friend of mine that graduated mechanical engineering. He applied for over 100 jobs, had no response. So he picked 20 companies that he wants to work for, printed his resume, and went to the first one at 9 a.m. and went to the reception. I'd like to speak to the director. The reception looked at him and said, do you have an appointment? He said, no. She said, well, he's busy. He goes, okay, great, I'll wait. And he waited there till about 2:30 in the afternoon. At 2:30 in the afternoon, the director finally came out and said, how can I help you? I understand you've been waiting for me all day. And my friend said, look, I just graduated mechanical engineering. These are some of the projects I've done. I know you don't have any job postings, but I wanted to introduce myself so that you can see who I am and what I bring to the table. They ended up having a 10-minute conversation. And in 10 minutes, he was hired for a job that did not exist yet. Right? And so we have to stop waiting around. People that go to networking wrongly because they go and go, oh, hi, you're an executive. Can I get a job? Can I get a job? Not even hello, who are you? And so it's the wrong conversation. So when you go to networking, first of all, brand yourself. So my favorite color is purple. When I go to networking, I have a purple shirt, I have purple pens, I have purple business cards, purple notebook, purple bag, so that even if you don't remember my name, when I email you afterwards, I say, I'm the guy in purple. You will remember the purple. So for men, you can brand yourself with a funny tie, a particular color shirt. And again, understand that yes, blue, black, gray, brown, and beige are the professional colors. So those aren't going to be remembered because everybody wears them. Right, so wear something distinction. You can wear a hat, a bowler hat, a fedora style hat. You can wear a pin that's particular, like a conversation. If you have a unique watch that you can kind of do, but have something that brands you. For ladies, there's a lot more choices because their earrings, their makeup, their hair. They can wear a shawl or a scarf. They can wear a particular outfit. They could wear particular shoes that are very decorative and shiny and so forth. So there's lots of variety to brand yourself and show up that way every single time. Now, when you go to a networking event, instead of I need a job, I need a job, I need a job, start learning about the executive. Oh, you're an executive at the company. What made you so successful? If you had to think back of your career, what are the three biggest accomplishments that you're most proud of? Right? And then once they start bragging about themselves, okay, so what's your leadership style? How do you inspire your team to do great work? If you were mentoring somebody in the industry, how would you mentor them? And then if you've taken the time to get to know them, there is a level of when you come and say, "Hey, I'm in the industry. Would you mind giving me feedback on my resume?" Don't ask for the job, ask for feedback. Because when you get feedback, they're going to write the perfect resume they want to see on their team. And after that, if you come back and say, "Listen, I was so inspired by the conversation. I learned so much from you. This is great. I would love to make you look better. I would love to be your superstar that outperforms everybody else on your team." Now, you're not asking for a job, you're making them look better. And there's a different mind shift than, "Hi, I need a job. Can I please get a job? I'm really, really hardworking." No one ever, like, I've met very few people in 20 years of doing this that say, "Listen, I'm lazy. I'll show up late. None of my work will be any good. And I really hate people. Please hire me." Not unless you're related to them or having an affair with them, that you can get away with that.
That just shows that learning from others and connecting with others is a really useful strategy to cement yourself with a good long term position. So, what would you say to young people who want to get started with this, but they have little qualifications or experience and they haven't done much that they can brag about?
So I think your question is worded incorrectly because everyone has done something. You volunteered. So quantify your volunteering hours. If you play musical instruments, like let's say you play piano, tell me what grade piano you love because that demonstrates dedicated commitment and so forth. If you participated in sports and you've been part of a championship team or you were the MVP or you scored the winning shots or you did that. If you got A's in school, you can quantify that. If you've babysat 5 kids, you can quantify that. If you've tutored or helped other kids, you can quantify that. If you've helped in your place of worship, whether it's doing kind of prayer school or whether it's doing activities for the kids, you can quantify that. So anything and everything, if you're in school and in uni, you can quantify the grades you got. You can quantify the genius of your assignment. You can quantify the fact that you were top, let's say, 2% in your class. There's always something that can be quantified. Now, you might think it's small and insignificant, but the person that's interviewing you might think that is the most important aspect to their organization, for example. So, there's an adage in English that says when you point a finger at someone, there's 3 fingers pointing right back at you. And so you need to take ownership of, what, I don't have a lot of experience, but here's how creative I am. Right. So even on your resume, if you remember the movie Legally Blonde that came out kind of late 90s and so forth with Reese Witherspoon as Elle Woods, when she sent her resume to Harvard University, one of the most prestigious universities in the world, right, her resume was pink and it was scented. And everybody talked about it. It was like, "Oh, it's pink," and sent it. But they remember it. So why not add a little bit of personality to your resume? Make your headings your favorite color, right? Change the font from Times New Roman, Arial, or Calibri because those are the default fonts in Microsoft Word, right? If you're using ChatGPT, again, make sure you teach ChatGPT how to tell your story. But ChatGPT uses Apsos as a font. So change Apsos as a font because by default, that's an AI font. So if it's reading that it's an AI generated resume, at least change the font, change some of the markers that make it AI, for example, then to not make it as obvious, right? But there's always something that you can say, "This is what makes me unique. This is how many hours." So even if it's on your own time, let's just say you're a coder. If you are experimenting with code and you have a GitHub portfolio, share your projects, explain why you wanted to do this project, explain what this project solves and how it solves it, because that is something. And so, unless you've never left your house, right, and have never done anything for yourself, I am certain that you overcame. I'm certain that you experienced something. You move from if you move from another country and you now settle in it, talk about your transition if you don't have experience. Talk about how you got an apartment, how you got a job, how you were resilient. Share a story with me. I don't care that you did a certificate because lots of people can do certificates nowadays, especially since you have so many free certificates everywhere. And so you need to be able to distinguish yourself in any way, shape, or form that happens kind of thing, and it's not, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It has to be, here's something I did that's different, So I was asked to lecture for an MBA class, and the professor said to me that they were working on a case where the company's losing a lot of money, and 95% of the students' solution was outsource. So as we're having a conversation, I said a few things. He's like, "Hey, do you want to come speak to my students?" I'm like, "Sure." How much time do I have to prepare? He's like, 20 minutes. Like, okay, let me go grab my laptop. I'll come and I'll do you on the spot kind of thing. And I came into the room. I said, "How many of you here uh, raise your hand if you suggested to outsource some of the costs?" They put up their hand. And then I turned around and said, "Then why are you here?" And the room went silent. I said, "You're paying for an MBA where your solution to a problem is, I don't need a job. Give it to someone else." The room went very silent. And I said, "How many of you would be willing to take a 10% pay cut to help the company get back on track profitably?" Some hands went up. I said, "How many of you, between your education, your experience, right, could, if you had to sit down, come up with a solution that can make the company money?" Some hands went up. I said, "That's the difference. When you start thinking about how you can solve something, not what everybody else needs to do, you will have a job. You will be different. But when your solution is, I'll outsource it, then you're going to struggle because you're finding the path of least resistance." Timothy Ferriss, who is one of an author that I follow and the speaker, that's wrote the 4-Hour Work Week, the 4-Hour Body, the 4-Hour Chef, Tools of the Titans, and so forth. And right, he was lecturing, I believe it was Stanford University. I don't remember exactly from the book right now. And he said, "I'm here for 2 weeks running different workshops. I challenged the MBA students at Stanford University to try and get a hold of either Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, or Steve Jobs. 95% of MBA students at Stanford University looked at Tim Ferriss and said, 'You're crazy. They have more security than God.' The 5% that did not started researching. One student found an article, and I don't remember which person it is exactly. Sorry, it's been a few years since I've read the book, where I believe it was Bill Gates, let's say, that had an article in 1980 that he said that his favorite birthday gift was a red bicycle he got when he was 10 years old. And at the bottom of the article was an old Pegasus email that hasn't existed in over 30 years. And he was like, "Okay, I have nothing to lose." And he sent an email saying, "Hi, not sure if this is Bill Gates or not, but I read an article from 1980 saying that your favorite birthday gift was a red bicycle. I was wondering if you still have the bicycle." Within 24 hours, he got a response saying, "No, I don't, but thank you for reminding me of such a great moment in my life. Signed, Bill Gates." Now, if you are willing to be resourceful, if you're willing to be diligent, if you're willing to take initiative and try to solve the problem yourself, you will get hired. If you are showing the bare minimum, you won't. And the problem is that the majority of society today is lazy. We've lost common sense in more ways than one. And we just expect technology to go, "Okay, I wrote a resume, it's there." Even resumes, like, there is optimizing resume and there's optimizing a resume. Because yes, ChatGPT can write you a resume and give you a generic resume that is standard for an industry, like an engineer. However, it does not tell your story. I am now at a level where, with my AI, because I'm building an AI kind of to help people really be engaged at work and not leave work, because turnover in North America alone is costing $1.9 trillion, not billion, $1 trillion a year. And disengagement is costing a minimum of $500 billion a year, where employees do just enough not to get fired, but they don't love their job. 84% of people in North America hate their job. So yes, you can ask ChatGPT to write your resume, but I've taught my AI to be able to write a resume that if you give me 10 job postings, not on one resume, I guarantee you a minimum of 95% matching or better on all 10 job postings. 95% or better on the top 10 AI scanners, resume scanners in the world, top 10, top 18 applicant tracking systems, and the top 12 job boards, predominantly in North America, because I've tested more in North America than Europe or other places. And this is all on one resume that is that optimized. Now, can people do this by themselves? Eventually, yes. But you have to understand, AI knows everything. What AI needs is people to teach it how to learn and to ask the right questions. AI, a lot of people use AI as Google. A lot of AI that's going on right now has removed some of the grounding that has safeguards. Like in the financial industry, how many banks are getting nailed for lack of compliance for knowing your client, knowing your business, knowing your investor, because they're not checking international transactions, and they're getting nailed with $300 million fines, $150 million fines, because there. So if you have now AI that removes all that regulation, money will disappear, right? And so, first of all, we need that proper grounding. But second of all, it's asking the right questions. So you're doing a podcast with me. You're asking me how to help people understand the job market, to navigate AI. Right. So yes, they can write an optimized resume. They can hire someone to write an optimized resume. But there's optimized resume and there's optimized resume. Right. There's also a level of, are you spending time adding fluff to me? Like, I'm hardworking, dedicated, committed team player with excellent communication skills. That is fluff, because unless you have zero experience whatsoever and you're a high school graduate looking for your first part-time job, again, you still have sports experience, you still have extracurricular experience, you still have volunteer experience, you still have, you know, religion and community experience. So there's still experiences, again, unless you've never done anything. But even if you've played video games and you figured out how to beat a video game, you can talk about how long it took you to figure out how to beat the video game, how you helped your friends beat the game or give them advice or, you know, played with them. Whatever it is, there's always something that you can say is, this is me, this is part of who I am, and define that, for example.
You've raised some really powerful points about being proactive and leveraging your skills. So once people have the ability to leverage what they have, how can they decide what they want to go into? Because many people aren't sure what path is right for them. How can they help decide them?
You just opened a very big portal of information. So there's a few things that you can do. So the first and most basic is take a piece of paper, put a line in the middle, and go, here's the things I like, here's the thing I don't like. So I was a stock trader or worked in finance for 7 years. You could not pay me $1 million to work in a bank again. I don't like sitting in a computer screen going, oh, it's going up, it's going down, it's going up, it's going down in terms of stocks. I don't have the patience for that. So I don't want jobs that all I'm doing is looking at an Excel spreadsheet or I'm looking at this. So define, first of all, some of the things that you enjoy, some of the things that you don't enjoy, right? Another great thing to do is go security, income, growth, or happiness, otherwise known as a SCI principle. They're all important, but which one would you put first? If you're looking at security, you're going to choose a job like engineering, accounting, teaching, because you can't really get fired and there's always demand for those jobs, right? If you're looking at income, you're going to choose jobs like sales and marketing because that's where you make a lot of money. Or if you do high level designation like your CFA or so forth, that will give you more options and designations that specialize. Okay. If you're looking for growth, it's about learning. It's about, I want to start here. Let's say I want to start as an entry level marketer where I can focus on this aspect of social media, not all social media, but this particular, master it or become an authority in it, and then expand my skill sets to others, for example, and grow as I learn that. Okay. And happiness is, you don't care about money, you care about knowing that you're making a difference or knowing that this is fun for you. So think of, for example, kindergarten teachers or daycare teachers. They don't make a lot of money, but the joy of seeing the kids smile and play is what drives them. The stories of like, oh my God, you'll never, the cutest thing happened today. That's what drives them, right? So use that principle for it. You know, where are you from? What's your cultural background? If I'm asked.
Pakistan.
Pakistan. Okay, so have you ever seen the movie called Three Idiots? It's a Bollywood movie, right? One of my favorite movies of all time, right? So understand that if your parents are going, go be an engineer, go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, but it
Yeah.
makes you miserable. Be honest about who you are, what drives you, because is it just I need a six-figure salary, or is it I want to do something more with my life? I want to do something meaningful. I think the statistics say that over 70% of people never work in what they studied in university. Think about
That's
what I just
partly
said.
due to how difficult the jobs market is, and there's no jobs available right now. But also, I think it's also really important what you raised to have what Rutger Bregman described as moral ambition, to have that purpose in your life that drives you and
Right.
motivates you to actually do what you're doing.
And Simon Sinek called it your why, your purpose, something that is bigger than you. Like, here's how I'm going to make society better, for example. So there is a level where you have to take a look and go, it's not just because this concept of a good job does not exist anymore. And we're about to get one of the biggest tsunamis in the job market ever because everyone's jumped on the bandwagon of AI. And yes, machine learning and LLM models have existed for years. Amazon, you type in A, it kind of already knows what you're going to buy because it has enough data on you to figure out what your income is, what this, that. When you say A, you're not buying an Audi on Amazon, you're buying something else. Now, in that, a lot of these AIs are saying we're AI agents. But if the agent does not remember the conversation that we have today, if I call back in a week, it's not an agent. It's just advanced LLM and machine learning and some of the other AI terminology. Because a good agent will remember the conversation and can draw from that conversation. So you're seeing a lot of because I have a brilliant CTO who's been in data architecture for 40 years, he showed me AI, like let's say medical AI, where he figured out like the back door to actually speak to the AI engine. And he asked the AI engine, what expertise is your medical advice based on? And the AI said, Jason's opinion. And he went, who's Jason? And the AI said, I don't know. So think about what I just said. Medical advice based on somebody's opinion.
It's important to understand that AI isn't intelligence in itself. It just utilizes everything that's already available. So, do you think that this progress that's happening with AI is it sustainable, and will it help job seekers more, or will it damage them more?
So that's
Because
what I
they
said.
can obviously
There's
use
a
it as well.
tsunami about to happen because when you have companies like Microsoft, Dell, UPS, Amazon, uh, you know, downsizing thousands of people at a time, they're not storing the human capacity on how they do things. Can AI do certain things faster? Like, can AI code technically faster than a human being? Yes. But AI still needs a human being to say, I want you to do this first, then this, because they will all tie in this way. And unless you know how to guide AI to do this, you're not. So you're going to see in a tsunami where all these companies are like jumping on, let's just automate everything with AI, are going to get hit so hard because AI is pre-programmed to this. But if you can't answer a question that is not in this realm, or your AI is not programmed to listen, like you know, my basement flooded, and when I call my insurance, there's an AI bot that answers me, but it asks me a question, and it is programmed to not take any answers until it's done speaking. And if I don't say it at the exact moment that it asks, it does not recognize the answer. So what's the point, kind of thing? So right now, and again, I'm building something called cultural transformation systems that will address the fact that yes, AI can automate certain things, but how do we authentically engage our employees? How do we keep their brain power? How do we keep their stories, their experience that kind of says, you're from Pakistan, you grew up this way, this is some of your experiences that helps you make decisions on the job. And because of these decisions, you produce these results. How do we capture that story? How do we capture that experience so that whether you're still with the company or not, that lived experience becomes part of the AI model. For example, right now, all of this AI agents and even the newer term of AI companions are not remembering those things. They're not grounded properly. There was 2 years ago, I was at a conference called Collision, which is one of the big tech conferences in North America, and I met a founder of an AI that built uh, a platform to help prevent people from becoming anorexic. Okay, but he did not ground his AI properly. Bad data came into the AI, and instead of preventing people how to become anorexic, it taught them how to become anorexic, and because they were anorexic, how to kill themselves. And so the AI collapsed from within. You're going to see that with a lot of AIs in the next few years because everyone is kind of, okay, we're in AI. Oh, we're automating our marketing. We're automating our call center. We're automating this where we don't need humans anymore. We just need AI. And we're just going to feed a question and we're going to keep adding to the questions. The problem is that you create such a disconnect with humans that it's not. And I'm seeing this in the workforce where I have clients that I've given them, let's say, a list of 35 executive search firms, like big names like Randstad, Robert Half, Hayes. And there's chatbots and they can't speak to an actual human being. It's like, how do you do recruiting without speaking to a human being? How do you, you can have AI tools that interviews, but unless your AI is programmed to learn your physiology, so your eyes go like this to the left, your eyes go down. There is psychology on whether you're lying or telling the truth. There's psychology to see, are you answering me in a conversation, or do you have another screen here that has AI beside you so that every time that you have the question, AI listens and feeds you the answer, and you have a tool that allows you to balance your eyes so your eyes kind of shift. And again, if you know what to look for, you can see the body language, you can see the face, because if I'm like this, but my face is towards you, the neck won't be aligned properly because AI can't capture that, and AI hasn't learned how to capture that yet. And so as much as there's deep fakes right now, smarter individuals know how to catch that. And so there's a level where the more you set yourself apart by saying, here's why I'm different, better, other, the better. So I'll use this as a very common, simple example. There is a lot of socially awkward guys. If they go, whether to a job or to a potential interest, and go like this, I'm high, I'm high, I'm high, I'm high, I'm can I get your number? Let's say if they're asking somebody out, their chances are slim and none. Slim because if the person is attracted to you, they might try to give you a chance to have a conversation with them, right? But otherwise, no, because psychology says that the two things that, let's say, women look for in a guy are confidence and sense of humor. If you go to a job interview and go, please, 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 please give me a job, I'm really hardworking, one of two things will happen. One, they won't hire you because you don't have confidence in yourself. Or two, even worse, they will hire you because they know you're desperate and they can take advantage of not paying you anything because you're desperate for a job. And so you're undervaluing the contributions you're making by coming with please, please, please. If you come and say, I have confidence, here's what I will perform, here's what I'll do better than anybody else, you're there. Again, I've done this so many times that to me, this is why I built Land Your Dream Job as a program. Where, for example, my brother was finishing mechanical engineering, applied for an internship. By the time one of the companies responded to him, it was going to be more of a paper pusher job, and he already registered for his fourth year classes. So he decided to cancel the interview. I decided to go in as my brother. I studied economics and business. The only thing I know about mechanical engineering is what I wrote for him on his resume. My first interview, there was 100 students from 4 major universities uh, in Ontario, Canada. Within 45 minutes, human resource called me back, said, we love you. We need to come back for a second interview. I was like, all right, let me see how far I can take this. My second interview was with the manager of the department that I potentially work with. Now, I spoke the truth about my brother's resume. My brother was on a team that designed a wheelchair for third world nations that uses a tank chain so it can go on any terrain. Came second in Ontario for the best mechanical engineering project in Ontario, won $500 from one of the major banks, right? Told the manager I studied thermodynamics and quantum physics. To this day, I have no idea what that is. Didn't even leave the parking lot. Manager called me and said, I adore you. I need to come back for a third and final interview. Out of 100 candidates, I made it to the final three. I'm not an engineer. Manager walked, I was the first one in at 8:30 in the morning. Manager walked over to me and goes, here's your offer letter. The job is yours. All you have to do is pass the mechanical engineering test. I looked at him. I looked at the test. I looked at him. I looked at the test. I'm like, I can't do this test. Manager looked at me and goes, I know you're nervous. Let me help you. He solved the first two questions for me. I looked at him again. I am so sorry for wasting your time. I guess I'm a lot more comfortable with the design than I am with the calculation. Thank you for this opportunity. Manager followed me to the car and begged me to take the job because I'd interviewed that much better than every other mechanical engineer. Right? Now, again, I've done this for law jobs, for accounting jobs, for jobs that I have zero qualifications for because I learned the lingo. And as long as you're not testing me technically right away, I can get away with it, kind of thing. And so when I teach people, it's not about, the, don't wear crinkly clothes, don't wear any slogans or anything offensive on you type of thing. It's more of the behavior, right? First behavior, come in with confidence that you have the job, right? Because if you've ever been promoted, Zaidan, in a job, they don't come to you and say, Zaidan, tell me about yourself. They say, Zaidan, you're doing a great job. We'd like to give you a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more money, possibly. Are you interested? Okay. And if you come to an interview with that level of confidence, where again, you have examples, you have quantifiables, you can kind of connect to how you will do it better for them, you will be the standard. But if the standard is, I love my company and I love my team, the standard is really low. The bar is really low. If the standard is, I know how to do this, okay. I've paid for marketing from people that are certified Google, certified Facebook, to get zero results because they were certified. I trusted their certification. I didn't ask the right question. So I got burned and lost money on the wrong things because people try to market my business the same way they market every other coach or every other business. It's not, right? I call myself a corporate culturist. I call myself a resume whisperer. Why? Because I'm not a career coach. I'm not a resume writer. I'm a resume whisperer. I'm a corporate culturist. Why? Because it triggers a question. It triggers a reaction. It is not the same as everybody else. Do I do stuff that other people do? Yes. Am I the only resume or career coach in the world? I know not. Just in North America, there's 165 million people that need my help. There's about 70 million people that are unemployed. There's 50 million people that are severely underemployed, meaning have a university degree but work at McDonald's. And then you have another 40 million going through some sort of education or retraining. My aim is to help 2 million people. That means there's still 100, let's say 48 million, 100 that need help. Now, Zaidan, you might prefer someone who's from Pakistan because they know your culture, they know your background. You might prefer someone who, works in a particular industry or specializes in a particular industry. I'm perfectly aware of that. I'm not delusional to say I'm the only one in the world. I'm realistic to say I've spent 30,000 hours to become an authority and to give advice that most people go, oh yeah. So I'm not giving you advice on, don't smoke before an interview and don't, wear heavy makeup. So, and again, I'll use because I think it is similar in Pakistan. I know that in India, for men, it is very common that they wear rings. And this ring is for status, and this ring is for health, and this ring is like part of prayers for goodwill or whatever. In North America, especially, if you show up to an interview with 8 rings on your hand, it looks weird. They're not used to it. They don't know the culture. So I will say, and again, 3 idiots, Farhan has all his ring until he almost commits suicide. There is a level where before he goes to the interview, he takes off all his rings because it's like, Like, look, if it's important for you to have one or two, I understand it's part of your religion, it's part of the culture. But then take the rest of the rings and put them in your pocket where they're still on you, but they're not visible so that whoever's interviewing you is not focusing only on the rings and not how good you are and not what you bring to the table that other people can't, for example. So it's a nuance where, again, I'm not saying don't practice your cultural beliefs or religious beliefs. I'm simply saying you need to adapt to the environment that you're in where something like having 8 rings on your fingers, especially for male, companies will look and go, this is a little too much for me, especially if they don't know that it is part of the culture.
So, relating to that idea of a human connection, do you think job seekers should go through recruitment agencies rather than through job sites as a better way of getting a job? And about firms themselves, when do you think that a startup should start looking for people to recruit, and what should people look for in a candidate?
All right, you've just asked 3 very different questions. So start with this. In your job search, if you want to optimize it correctly, 10% of your time should be job boards like Indeed because they have less than a 3% success rate, first of all, right? But it's still a source. 25% of your time should be agencies, recruiters, headhunters, employment firms, executive search firms, whatever they're labeled as. Now, when I say register with them, it's not just go on their website and add your resume or upload your resume. If they don't call you after you upload your resume, it's calling them. If they don't answer you after you call them for like a few days, is physically go there in person. Because again, like any other profession, they have their like Tata Consulting Services used to be one of my clients. They called me and said they got a project to renew the mortgage software for a major bank here in Canada, a $50 million project. They called me and said, we need back then like 70 Java developers in 3 weeks. I literally worked 18 hours a day just on Tata. 3 weeks later, they were like, oh, we're renegotiating the contract. Tell them to wait. I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, I've dropped all my clients. I haven't looked at anybody else because you guys told me this is urgent. So then I told the people to wait for a month. And then after a month, they're like, we're still negotiating. Tell them 2 more months. I'm like, you're making me look like an idiot because I told everybody this is urgent. Now you're waiting 3 months. I've ignored my other clients. So that will happen. You also have recruiters that are afraid to tell you no and they don't want to deal with negative, so they'll just ghost you. Unfortunately, ghosting has become very common in the professional world, which is horrible. Okay. You also have politics where if, let's say, I have a great client like Tata and head office says, ooh, this is a great client, we're now taking over this client. It's no longer your client. And that relationship and all the hard work is not for naught. You will have politics where if I interview someone and they're great, but it's your orders they done, you might say, I don't want to split commission with you, so I'm not even going to look at that candidate, even though that might be the candidate that gets hired. So we both end up losing money. So there's bad recruiters that don't know what they're doing. So yes, you have to be diligent in registering, getting information, and use them because recruiters already have ins with companies that you're trying to get to, and they're not going through the applicant tracking system. They're going directly to a decision maker, right? So yes, use recruiter. 25% of your job search should be networking, right? And again, networking strategically. So go to Eventbrite and find events that cost money because the ones that cost money are the ones that bring in executives or higher level people. The ones that are free is all job seekers that are looking for a job, and you have kind of 5 companies there that will take thousands of resumes from you. And so again, brand yourself, be different. Okay. 25% of your job search should be LinkedIn and other social media. And now, when I say other social media, understand that pretty much every organization has a business page, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on LinkedIn, and so forth. So if you engage in the business page in terms of making comments, asking questions, they will start tracking you and they will find you, for example, right? And so 25% for agencies, 25% for LinkedIn and other social media in terms of engagement, 10% for job boards, 25% for networking, correctly. And then 15%, which is the hardest but the best one, is to target companies that you're interested in and either go there in person or do what you're doing, Zaydan, which is to set up a podcast where you can ask authorities in the industry, in the companies that you want to work for interviews where you can learn how they lead, what their successes have been, how they mentor, what they look for in a resume, so that you can get an opportunity to get your foot in the door without a job being posted. Those are the best jobs you're going to get. But those like the last one, the last 15%, usually takes the longest, and it's the hardest, and it's the most work to do. But if you do it correctly, you can design your own job description.
What do you think about the business aspect then? How should startups recruit and when should they recruit?
So
In
again,
the stage of their business. So once they've started up, they might not have any employees. So when should they look to take someone on?
so here's where I'm going to say to you, and it's a model like this. You have your genius. When you're building a company, you have to wear a lot of hats. There is, one of my clients once said to me, and I've taken this to heart: if you're the smartest man in the room, you're in the wrong room. As a CEO, I should never be the smartest, because if you're smart in accounting, I'll just let you do accounting. So hire a good accountant to do that. Get a lawyer that knows what they're doing to look at your legal stuff. As things progress, where you start landing clients, you start doing things, start focusing on what is your genius that you are kind of shine the most, and the rest that is not your shine, but it's technically busy work, that's where you delegate. Whether you outsource it or whether you hire internally, that is up to you, depending on where your finances are and what there needs to be. There are certain things, like, for example, like I'm building an AI. I have a CTO that before joining me finished building Intel's AI learning management system that competes with Google and Amazon to be the most advanced courses. And because of him, for the first time in history, Intel can sell courses directly to you, for example. Okay? Took 28 different platforms, dumped them into a data lake, $26 million project. He's been doing data architecture for 40 years. So initially, when him and I started talking about my vision for an AI HR tech called Cultural Transformation Systems, we were pre-AI explosion. So we were going to build a system, an actual system. Now with a $300 tech stack, we have more tech availability than someone that spends $25,000, $100,000, $250,000. And we've built a shell where we can go to any organization right now and literally go, this is your organization, here's the ethics, here's the compliance, here's this, and we can build authentic engagement. So if Zaydan, let's say you like learning new things, I can incentivize you to say, Zaydan, if you achieve these KPMs, we will pay for any course you want, whether it's professional or personal. Okay? If the person next to you, Bob, is in the same department as you, and Bob loves traveling, same KPIs. But Bob, if you achieve these KPIs, we will pay for travel, and that won't count as your regular vacation pay. Now you're both getting what you want. You're both producing at your highest level because I'm engaging you where you're at, and I don't need to build systems around it because I have there. So even personality, so even this, I can customize it to your organization's defined values. Now, and this is something that I'm going to say, corporate culture and social responsibility are massive buzzwords. Most organizations preach culture, but don't practice it. That's why turnover is $1.9 trillion. Right?
So how do you think that they don't practice it?
So I'm going to give you a couple examples. So a friend of mine got hired at a bank. When they interviewed her, they showed her this beautiful state-of-the-art yoga room. And they went, oh, okay, this is great. And she was like, okay, they get mental health and well-being. They're all like, proactive. She got hired. There's no yoga instructor. There's no incentive for her to teach yoga. There isn't even an extra 10 minutes at lunch for her to do yoga by herself and rejuvenate. So you have
So
this
it's just
big,
performative. It's just there for
right,
appearance.
it's just there for show. So when they interview people, they're like, look, we care, but it's not care. I'll give you a second example related to a bank. So I used to be a stock trader. I used to answer the phone. It's a great day, or it's a fantastic day at the bank. My name's Joseph. How can I help you? One of my coworkers complained that me saying great or fantastic could be interpreted as the bank's making too much money. So senior management had 3 2-hour long meetings to discuss whether or not I was allowed to say great and fantastic, and decided it was easier to ban me from saying great and fantastic than to retrain over 120 traders on the floor. Now, after this happened, one of the senior VPs came to me and said, Joseph, you're always positive, you're always energetic, morale here is really low. I would like you to form a social committee where you're doing events to help boost morale. I said, okay, great. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to organize a potluck because everyone loves food. He looked at me and goes, yeah, that's probably not going to work because most of the traders are single bachelors. They'll just give you $5, $10 and say, I'll eat what other people bring. I said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And I created an Excel spreadsheet. This many people bring drinks. This many people bring cookies. This many people bring desserts. This many people bring main courses. And I logged off the phone for 2 hours, starting with the executive VPs. I said, I don't care if you make it, your partner makes it, your mom makes it, or you buy it. But you have to sign up for something. Valued, let's say, $10, roughly. Okay? And I went through 150 people, one by one, and I got them to sign up for something. The day of the potluck, I logged off the phone for 2 hours to organize the food so the meat wasn't beside the candy, so that there was a logical flow. For the next 3 months, everyone talked about how much food, because I had the 3.5 full-size boardroom tables that can hold about 20 people with food, right? Everyone talked about how they could, log off the phone for a couple minutes, go grab a cookie, come back to their desk. Okay. During that quarter, I won or came in the top 3 for 7 out of 10 contests, including answering 155 trading calls in one shift. Right? The bank refused to give me my bonus because I was logged off the phone for 4 hours for the entire quarter to organize the very thing that the senior VP asked me to do. So when I say preach culture, it's about looking good. It's about societal norms, right? But it's not actually, do we care about our employees? How many companies have a generic 5-year plan that cares little about you, but more, do you fit into this box that they need people to fit into, right? So same thing with social responsibility. Most companies donate money to the homeless but how many companies take the time to ask you, Zaidan, what are the causes that you care about? So if you do a great job, and let's say my father passed away from cancer, God rest his soul. Okay. If I do a great job and you're going to go, as a company, we're going to donate $2,500 in your name to cancer research from the company. Now I care about it because it connects to my dad. But
That's something that Tesco does really effectively here. They allow you to choose which organization that they donate to. So what do you think that leaders should do? How can they manage commanding respect, delivering results, but also these other responsibilities about culture and social responsibility as well?
Again, so culture is not, we had free pizza today. Culture is about asking the employees what drives them, what they care about, how they communicate, how they want to be communicated. So have you ever read Dr. Gary Chapman's The 5 Languages of Love?
No.
Or heard of it? Okay, so for example, there are 5 ways that people either show love or want to receive love. So the first is words of affirmation. The second is acts of service, like I'll clean your house for you, I'll do something for you. The third is touch, like hold hands, hug, whatever. The fourth is gifts, and the fifth is quality time. So let's just say that you want to be shown that you're appreciated with quality time. So what if the company now said, okay, you know what, Zaidan, you're doing a great job. Once a month, you get to sit with an executive and just ask them questions that you're interested in. How much will that be worth to you?
That'd be worth quite a lot, yeah.
Right. And if the next person beside you, needs words of affirmation, How much does it cost a company to go, you know what, Zaydan, you're doing an amazing job. We love the result you're producing. Does it cost you any money?
Yeah, they
No.
could just send an email. It's not going to cost them anything.
Or even give you a certificate that you feel proud of, that you have that certificate, right? But what I'm saying is, it's not we had pizza once. It's about following through on how do I build my employees, right? Yes, every company wants to make more money. Yes, we have key performance indicators or key performance measures that companies use, or dashboards that says, here's the results that we want. But if you've ever seen a show called Undercover Boss, I'm always amused at the end of the show where the executive goes, oh my God, I should speak to the people that work here. I might get some insights. Because when you look at an Excel spreadsheet on profits and losses or P&L, you're not thinking of the human experience. People need that coffee break, water cooler conversation where you could talk about TV or Netflix shows, you could talk about music, you could talk about, traffic, you can talk, it doesn't matter what, but it's a way to refresh the brain. But more and more companies are going, we don't want that. We don't need that. We have AI. And so it's just bigger, better, better, better. And people burn out. Like, again, I keep track that when a company loses one person, it costs them on average between $100,000 to $180,000 per month to replace that person. So think about a company that has 10 open positions for 6 months. We're talking about $600,000 to $800,000 in losses in productivity. That's not including losses in business. That's not including like new business coming in because like you have to work overtime. No one's paying you. You get frustrated. You start going, okay, I'm going to do enough not to get fired, not because I get, but just because it pays my bills and I don't care anymore. If my organization doesn't care, I don't care, right? People start calling in sick. And so now there's more work for you. There's more work for this, right? There's a level of they don't care, I don't care. So I'm going to do I'm in at 9, I'm out at 5:00 exactly because they don't care about my well-being. So I'm going to enjoy my week and I'm going to do this, right? When you interview people and hire them, usually training is a week, surface level. It's not hard problems. So it takes 3 to 6 months to ramp that person up. So when you break down the individual cost of losing good people, right, we're talking millions of dollars for a small business. Okay, so again, an AI is doing that right now, where it's saying we don't need humans, AI, 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 AI. And we're losing that genius. We're losing that interaction. And companies that don't slow down are going to get hit massively with a tsunami. Companies that take a few steps back and go, wait a minute, yes, we can automate this because it is tactic or tacit task, right? But before we automate this, we need to talk to everybody in the department, understand how they do things, why they do things, how they go about doing things, and then we can teach AI to potentially do some of those tasks. But if it's just, oh, there's a new tool for AI, great, and you let go of thousands of people in your organization, and all of a sudden you're losing the brain power to think. You're losing the ability to, like, why does AI have hallucinations? Because you haven't taught it what is important. You haven't taught it how to think. That's going to be the most in-demand job in the next 10 years, is the ability to teach AI how to think. Empathy is going to be one of the most in-demand skills in the next 10 years, because the more automated and robotic we become, the more people are going to disconnect. And the more people disconnect, the bigger the impact on organizations.
So, based on these skills that you think are going to be in demand, what industries do you think are the ones to watch? Which industries do you think will create that growth in the future and provide people with opportunities and employment?
So again, becoming, I'll use the word educator or trainer, will be very in demand for technology. Anything with the word environment is going to be massive in the next 15 years, right? So environmental technician, environmental engineer, all those are going to be massive. Beyond that, again, as we are now getting into this world of sustainability, is going to be a massive industry, because right now they're talking about the fact that one nuclear power plant generates 1 million, I don't know what the correct term is, kilojoules of energy, let's say. And given at the speed that AI is exploding right now, they're talking about having a minimum of 130 nuclear power plants to sustain the energy needed for AI, right? So my CTO has figured out a way called glyphing and luminetics to take 1,000 documents into an emoji, and then you can run the business without wasting money on kind of data center, right? Even though currently data science is an exploding industry, understand it's not that we lack data. We have tons of data. Everything digital is data, but we have a disconnect for the human experience. So yes, AI can create a gazillion videos in a matter of minutes, but AI needs to learn emotion. AI needs to connect to people. Like when you like, if there is no, you know, human experience, like there was a girl that was, I think, finishing college and told everybody that she's going on a vacation to Thailand, and she ended up being in her apartment for 6 months. Never left the apartment. Everything was faked in terms of the experience. Like, here's me riding an elephant. Here's me, going to this temple. Here's me this. But that fakeness is being. It might not be caught today. It might not be caught in a month, but it will catch up to you. The Liver King that was like, oh, I don't use steroids and I only eat raw meat, turned out fake, and now he's living in Dubai because they won't arrest him there. But as big as he was, he crashed and burned because there was proof that he's not as natural as he says. Right? The Island Boys rappers, the white rappers that were like, look at my money and look at my cars. They're bankrupt. They don't have any money. Everything was rented. Everything was for show. A lot of these influencers that are now popular, they don't really have anything real to say. So yes, younger are watching the video. Oh, okay, this is an influencer. They say this, but intelligence is going to kick in and say, you know, if this is our standard of their, like, kids today think that, oh, anybody can be an influencer. Yes, you can become an influencer. Yes, there's opportunities for that. But you also have to learn the algorithm, the science behind how to do it. Like Ninja plays video games, makes $10 million now a year playing video games. Anybody that plays video games, and there's tons of people that play video games, can do what Ninja did. But don't do what Ninja is doing right now because he's successful. Look at what Ninja did earlier on in his career. Start building the same foundation. Mr. Beast, massive influencer. Love his videos and so forth. But if you want to become Mr. Beast, you either have to have money to start, or you have to do local, build a following, build the algorithm, and then expand out. Okay? Kaby Lamb from, now lives in Italy or whatever, originally from Senegal, that does this. There are people that are explaining what this means. 200 million followers. I don't know what this means, but people that are trying to jump on the bandwagon are now going, oh, look, he did this. Let me explain why he did this, because they're trying to be influenced. So they're not owning their own identity. They're not owning their own experiences or knowledge, right? So it's like me going, hey, I went to 3 Pakistani restaurants. I'm an expert in Pakistani food.
This is
No,
a common problem. Many people proclaim themselves as experts just from minimal experience.
right,
But I also think that another important skill would be communication. So
of course.
how can people be more confident in communicating? Because that's really going to set people apart in the future.
So I'm an avid advocate of Toastmasters International, which teaches you the art of public speaking and counts, for example, how many times you use filler words when you speak. So or and, like, but yeah, and etc., etc. Uh, it also teaches you how to think on your feet, where you're given what's called table topics, and you're given like an idea, like what does freedom mean to you, and you have a minute or two
Like
to
debating really
not
helps you think on
debating,
your
but
feet.
it's kind of like you stand up and someone asks you, okay, what does freedom mean to you, and you have a minute to share what freedom means, and they kind of vote on the best one. But it's in there. There is debate clubs. There is uh, programs that can kind of teach you, first of all, public speaking, presentation skills. So Steve Jobs was notorious where he would have slides in the background, but they would have an image or one word, not like stick everything you're going to say on the slides and then read it word for word, which has no engagement. Like, so there are tools to learn from perspective of social skills. Understand that even if you build your own business, social skills, presentation skills, sales skills are skills that will never change. Even though you're very analytical, even though you're in a profession that this, you have to sell yourself for a job. You have to sell yourself to date and get married. You have to sell yourself for there. It's a skill set. You need to learn how to be of service. We have so much hate and so much ignorance in this world right now, and like rush hour traffic, and people are kind of cutting you off to get to the traffic like a second faster. Like, really, what is that second going to do to you where you nearly caused an accident? Why? We don't have patience anymore. We don't have there. We become a society where it's everybody else's fault, not your own. Nobody looks internally. Everybody just points fingers, says it's this first, it's that fault. Right? Our politicians are making promises and speaking lovely, but not taking any actions around the world, right? Um, and again, we've kind of accepted this is a norm, and it's not. Like, there are values, whether they come from religion, where they come from human decency, where they come from morals, where they come from ethics, that we need to get back to as a society.
The reason that failure has become normalized is because people have become passive. They don't care anymore.
They don't care. Again, if let's say a multitude of factors like immigration, we will let anybody in because we want votes, as opposed to try and bringing in the cream of the crop, people that can help society, people that can innovate, people that can there. The societies get ruined because of that. If our standard for work is we just need a human being that, like, I know that you're in the UK, but you know, I go to like a convenience store, and let's say they owe me 75 cents. I know you guys deal in pence and stuff like that, but 75 cents, and I'm like, I don't want 3 quarters. Here's a quarter. Give me a loonie. And they look at me like, I'm gonna have to ask my manager if I'm allowed to do that, and I don't know if that math works because the computer didn't do it for them, and we've stopped thinking for ourselves, right? So there is a level where um, I'm not saying don't use AI. I'm simply saying don't copy and paste without reading what AI produces. Make sure that it makes sense. Make sure that it is in your voice. Make sure that there are there. But if the bar is so low and the people, like, again, I got told saying great and fantastic is negative in a call center. Think about that. Like, would you feel bad if I was like, Zaidan, it's a great day today. How can I help you? Would you be angry at me for telling you that it's a great day? Now, even if you've lost money in investments, again, I would crack it. Oh, but it's half price Tuesdays. You get chicken half price, or you get a movie half price.
It always make you more likely to buy the service if you heard it like that.
Right. So there's a level where if our standard is don't say great, don't say fantastic, don't smile, don't make eye contact, don't this, no wonder we're in an angry society. No wonder we are setting ourselves up for failure. And our politicians care about their career, care about their pocket globally, right? Religious leaders are, give me the religion, give me money, but not necessarily teach me, show me, lead me, kind of thing, in a way that, there is multitude layers of corruption everywhere. And we're wasting money on agendas that don't, like, I live in Toronto. Our politicians spent $2.5 million arguing if our subway extension should be called subway or LRT. $2.5 million on the name. On the name. Like
Ridiculous stuff like that is very common.
call it Jimmy for all I care. Right? Save $2.5 million, call it a random word. Doesn't matter. Right? But we spent $2.5 million on a name. Right? And so globally, when you're seeing this kind of equation of we need to spend money on, you know, and forgive me, but I'm going to use this example purposely, supporting the LGBTQ plus community in Pakistan. Right? Pakistan is a Muslim country. Based on the definition of Islam, they don't necessarily accept LGBTQ plus. They're not ignorant that it exists, but the religion doesn't accept it. So to spend millions of dollars to create programs in Pakistan is counterproductive to me, right? Because the culture and the religious influence don't necessarily have that conversation, right? And so I'm not saying create opportunity. I'm not saying don't create safe spaces for them. I'm simply saying structure it in a way that it could be kind of discreet and people can live their lives without spending hundreds of millions of dollars
Yeah,
on.
it needs to consider the local community, not just impose their will upon them.
Correct.
I want to move finally to just one more topic now. Education. Education reform will be vitally important if we want to improve society in the future. And I think that it's always neglected. And we've had the same type of education system since the Victorian era across the world, not just in the UK. So what do you think about education reform, first of all? And then finally, about university. Is it still worth it for young people to go to university, or do you think other routes are more effective, like apprenticeships?
Okay, so I'll start with this. The education system is built for the Industrial Revolution.
Yes.
In most Western society or civilized society. We are now in the AI/technology revolution. So memorizing facts is not going to necessarily help you solve problems, right? Sully Breaks or Sully Breezy from the UK, which I love and follow, has a few kind of spoken words about the creative genius, the person that sees math and lights up, or can draw, or can dance, or can this. And Sir Ken Robinson, seen a lot of his TED Talks, seen a lot of his there talks about we are killing creativity. We're killing this, which is why AI is so quick and so simple as a solution, right? And because politics control education, we are always 20 years behind, right? Like, life happened to me. I became a teacher, and the marketing curriculum was talk to kids about the innovation of paper, talk to them about going from rotary phones to cell phones. And I'm like, kids today have no idea what a rotary phone is unless they came from a third world country, which still might have the technology and so forth. But in
education is always being pushed backwards by policymakers because they inherently don't want progress because it's going to threaten their position.
But again, it's progress where select few can progress. You have to understand, with AI right now, let's use engineering. Can AI create an entire schedule on how to build a house? Yes. Can AI by itself, without human direction, go, oh, wait a minute, let's say in Toronto it's minus 15 degrees outside. We cannot pour concrete and have foundation work in minus 15 degrees because it will crack. No, because AI doesn't think about AI goes, here's a standard for building a house. It doesn't take into account soil conditions. It doesn't take into account weather conditions. It doesn't take into account, how much labor is available unless you teach it correctly, right? In regards to the second part of your question, I am a true believer of being a life learner. It is not whether you have a degree, it is how you apply your knowledge. Our apprenticeships right now better as a career than, let's say, becoming a banker? Yes, because there's such demand where you have the guys that have been electricians, plumbers, mechanics for 30, 40 years that are their body can't handle anymore. They need to pass the baton to the next generation. And it's not who's the most educated. Like there's a very famous story of, you know, a ship that's broken and there's 18 engineers on the ship and they can't figure out how to fix it. So they call this guy that's been fixing ships for 30 years. And he comes and he goes like this and he goes like this, goes to his toolkit, grabs a hammer, goes to a particular sponsorship, and the engine starts working right away. And he sends an invoice for $10,000 to the VP. The VP kind of responds to him and goes, "You were here for 5, maybe 10 minutes. Can you give me a detailed breakdown of why it's $10,000? And he responds with $2 for hammer, $9,998 to know where to hit the hammer. Right? And that intrinsic knowledge is what AI is missing right now. And
That shows how the
so,
modern economy is going to be more focused on skills rather than qualifications.
correct, right? Because in North America, you can get a qualification for being an official barbecue taster. Like we have a designation to be a barbecue taster. Like, it's delicious. It's spicy. Like it ain't that complicated, kind of thing, right? But if you're going to judge, let's say, a chili competition, apparently you need to know how to judge it. But again, I think every human being can do that. You don't necessarily need a designation for it. There's a designation to be a stripper. Redundant to me, but there is one to try and regulate the industry in some aspects. But you have to understand that again, it's like AI can generate like Salvador Dali image or a Monet image or a Degas image, but AI doesn't understand how Salvador Dali came up with so many hidden images on one image, right? He doesn't understand how his brain works, and unless somebody teaches how one brushstroke can create an image, we're going to lose that genius. And this is where university and college, again, I will say this. I respect cultural influence that parents say, you need to go get a good job. You need to make us proud. And I'm not dismissing that, but that conversation needs to shift to this career never existed when you were younger. Like you can become a video game tester making $100,000 to $150,000, which is the same money as being an accountant or an engineer. But let's say people from Pakistan, your parents' generation did not and still do not understand that video games is a profession. And it will be very hard for them to understand that it's a profession unless you show them, hey, this is how much a game tester makes, not even a designer, just a tester makes. And they're, oh, okay. But going back to education, it requires a shift in thinking from I need to put you through the system for the sake of putting you through the system to I'm going to teach you how to think. I'm going to teach you how to present. I'm going to teach you how to communicate. I'm going to teach you how to express. I'm going to teach you why your knowledge and your experience become a bigger part of the collective and how it is similar and how it is different from those around you within your community, within your culture, within there. Because just because somebody was raised here, like, Zidane, you said you're from Pakistan. Not every Pakistani is the same. Not everyone has the same mindset. Even within the religion of Islam, you have Shia, you have Sunni, you have Ismaili, you have this, and they're all Muslim, just different sects and different understanding of that, right? You or your family chose to come to the UK for a better life, for better opportunities because of the fact that whether it's the religion that's restricting you, whether it's because it's a third world country and it's not as developed, there are limitations back home. Now, if you take what you apply and implement it back home where you lead the change, think of the impact, the legacy that you're going to create because you created that change. where you might not have that same opportunity in the UK because it is more progressive and they're already doing things that you would bring back home. And so I firmly believe in education, but I also believe in people exploring and discovering and experiencing. Like my kids, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. My son will climb the table and he'll fall. When he falls, if there's no blood and it's not a major accident, just looks like he was scared a little bit, I will clap for him. I will celebrate him doing that. Now, because he's 3, I know how to like he likes running water, so I will turn on the tap water so that he stops crying because I'm clapping for him and there's water and he wants to play with the water, but he's still processing. So his pain stops in under a minute. And then as soon as he's done playing with the water, he'll climb back on the table and he'll look at me and I'll go, "You make the choice. Just be careful." Like, I'm not saying don't climb on the table. I'm just simply saying be careful how you jump or get off the table. And because his lived experience was, I just fell, I don't want that experience, I'll do something different. I encourage my kids to explore. I encourage my kids to discover. But how many parents don't and say, just be a good student? Like, I've taught, let's say, public speaking and debate in Chinese schools where they're doing school Saturday and Sunday. And I used to, let's say, kids that are 10 years old, give them a 5-minute break to drop poo on my whiteboard. And parents were sitting outside going, "There's too much laughing in this class." And when the principal told me this, I'm like, tell the parents to come into the class the next week, and I want them to see how much work gets done even though we laugh. And in an 8-hour day, the kids were able to write, memorize, present, and give feedback to, let's say, 4 or 5 speeches. And the parents were shocked at how much learning was actually happening because their culture is not used to laugh kind of thing. And after the class, they're like, "Okay, fine, they can laugh, but less." When the principal said that to me, I'm like, "You can fire me." Right? I teach with laughter. And she went, "You're the best teacher here. Kids adore you. I'm not firing you. I'll talk to the parents." But it was hard for the parents to understand that a mental break makes the kids better because it's not just study, study, study. There is an opportunity to be a kid. So I show them a silly YouTube video. They're all laughing. I give them 5 minutes to run around the classroom, expand energy. Their brain is refreshed. A lot of organizations don't understand how important refreshing the brain is.
Changing the classroom environment also is really important as well, because right now we just have like rows of students just facing the teacher. It needs to be like more collaborative, and more comfortable as well.
But again, there are a few, like, when students ask me what's the best school, I always answer like this. A school is a building with chairs and tables and blackboards or whiteboards or green boards. What makes your experience is the teachers you connect with. So every school has at least 5 teachers that make a big impact in schools, usually athletics, drama, music, art, because those are like your own kind of expression. And then teachers that love teaching, that love sharing insights, where like you have a history teacher that just comes to life and dresses up and brings in props and brings in speakers. Those are the ones that you're going to remember because those are the ones that cared and weren't just doing a job, right? So yes, the education system needs to be more proactive in how they prepare students for the real world and how they engage them and how they're, and it's not about necessarily all the time differentiated instructions or differentiated assessment. It's about, yes, we're so culturally diverse around the world in many places. You can't include every culture, you can't include everything, but it's not just here's a paper, do this assignment. There's a level of here's how you apply it, here's how you have to think about it. Math, you love soccer, let's connect math and soccer because you need to know the angle of the kick. You need to, or football internationally, but I'm in North America, so let's say soccer. You need to know the power, the speed. You need to know how to curve your leg this way or that way, where the ball will go in different ways. That's still learning. That's still application. It's not memorization. The application and the connection are what makes a bigger impact and what makes a massive shift in the experience of education, the experience of work, right? Every company, okay, we need marketing, we need our product to be known. Okay, but how are you connecting to human experience? How are you connecting to how society is changing in a way that you don't need to change your entire brand? You can just recognize, you can have conversation, you can have engagement in a certain way, right? Yes, AI can create videos. Yes, there's thousands of experts in my realm of careers and culture or HR or recruiting, whatever you want to call it. But what are you doing different? How are you standing out? How are you servicing at a level that people don't care about your price, they care about your service, right? And even if somebody offers a better price, there's a level of, this level of service is what I pay for. This level of authority or expertise is what I pay for. When people say to me, oh, I can get a resume written for $100, I'm like, great, go do it. I know what will happen for $100. You're paying for my 30,000 hours of mastery. You're paying for the 12,000 people I've helped and helped people land jobs in as little as 2 days in their profession. You're paying for my ability to give you nuances that other experts have not experienced. You're paying for my experiences of, let's say, getting someone a $450,000 raise in 4 hours, right? You're not paying for the fact that I have a piece of paper that says I know how to do recruiting. If you're paying for that, again, do you. I'm not here to tell you there. And like I said, I'm not delusional that every person on earth or every person in North America, 160, 170 million people, will only use me. I'm not going to complain if they do, right? Because I'll make a big impact on the world. Financially, everything will be, golden. But I'm also realistic that everybody has their own listening. And you need to find the right fit for you, but you also need to ask the right questions, right? You can go on 10 interviews and you think that you've aced all 10 interviews, but you're not a cultural fit. You're not personality fit. Your technical skills might be perfect, but if you've ever watched any of the talent competition, X Factor, So You Think You Can Dance, and all of the other ones there, it's not the most technical that wins. It's the person that has an ability to connect with the audience, the person that tells a story better than everybody else. Very rarely it's the most technical that wins.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. And just to finish off, could you please tell us how we can get in touch with you or access your services and what your social media handle is?
So pretty much Josef Stetter is my name. If you think of Stetter, think of the word stutter. Instead of a U, put an E. That will help you remember it. I'm super active on LinkedIn. I'm found on most social media under Josef Stetter or the Resume Whisperer or the Corporate Culturist. But LinkedIn is probably the fastest and easiest to get a hold of me because I'm on it every single day and I post every other day materials for people, videos for people, articles for people to know how to deal with AI, to know how to navigate the workforce, to know the job search as a whole.
Okay, thank you so much for watching and listening. Please subscribe and share the video for your friends and family as well. And I hope to see you next time. This has been Mission Undercover.
Thank you, Zidane, for